Hello again, fellow podcaster, and welcome back to Podcast Theory Live. I am your host, Jason Sircone. It is Friday, June 28th, 2024, and this is a pre-recorded episode of Podcast Theory Live coming at you, this is coming at you like it normally does. I am in Charlotte, North Carolina, but I didn't want to miss this opportunity to connect with you and wrap up this week's series of wild and crazy stories that I've experienced in the podcast space. So if you are also in Charlotte, North Carolina for the first ever Empowered Podcasting Conference, I hope I get an opportunity to say hello. We get to speak and you get to join me as I'm emceeing some of the event and leading a panel discussion all about how podcasting has become a better version of social media. I am pumped to be a part of this brand new conference. And if you're there, I hope you are pumped as well. But if you're not, let's have a little fun today, because today I want to share a story that I think all podcasters have experienced at least one time. And if you have not, consider yourself lucky, because this is one of those things that I feel I've talked to so many podcasters in so many different settings, and it's just one of those things that I think you have to experience it to understand the severity. And it's not even really that it's severe, it's just such a klutz move. So I remember I had set up a podcast interview on one of my past shows, and we were all lined up. We had fully prepared for what we were going to speak about. He joined me. We did a little green room conversation before we got the ball rolling. Then we had our clear vision of where this episode was going to go. We got things going. I'm very big on organic conversation, and I always have been. I feel I've gotten much better at that at this stage of the game. So whether it's here on Podcast Theory or if you hear it on Let's Blow This Up and Let's Blow This Up Live, that's what I'm all about. I love having those organic conversations where I'm prepared. I know who I'm speaking to. I have speaking points, but they're not in front of me. We're just having a conversation, and we're bringing this content to you to enjoy in that very raw, unscripted environment. Nevertheless, all of my podcasts to some degree have had a little bit of that, but I can speak to the last podcast, especially the one I'm referring to in this story. I did have my questions in front of me. So trying to keep the organic conversation going, but did have questions in front of me just in case. Nevertheless, we're off and running. I had asked a couple of the questions on the format, but for the most part, we're just capturing a very good, engaging, captivating conversation. So we're about 35 to 40 minutes in, and we're rocking, and this is just what I'm thinking about what we're going to be bringing to the audience. And then I realized I never pressed the record button. We had been talking that whole time, spinning the audio gold to the highest degree, and it was all just words into the wind because I didn't press the record button. Like I said, I think you could ask any podcaster that's been in this for an extended period of time, and they're going to have a very similar story to this. But my God, was I pissed off at myself. And I remember, because my guest was midpoint on something, and I said, I got to stop you. You're not going to believe this. And he said, what? And I said, I never hit the record button. Fortunately, he laughed, which made me laugh. I mean, in my head, I was still just fuming that I could not believe the most fundamental thing that you need to do when you're recording a podcast is press record. And I forgot to do it. He was very good about it. Like I said, he laughed. He said, no big deal. I have the time. Let's just start over. It ended up being great. You know, it's like we gave ourselves this little unscripted trial run, and trying to capture the magic of that 100% more than likely didn't happen. But I was very fortunate in that he was very cool about it. He didn't like, oh, I can't believe you did that. You wasted my time. I got to go. No, he, like I said, I think podcast guests overall understand what podcasters are trying to do, and they do see that mistakes can be made. So fortunately, that's what happened. So we ended up starting over with the record button being pressed, and we had a great conversation that was captured and then shared with the audience. I tell that story because since that experience, I have not forgotten to press record one time, because I now verbally, when I'm starting any interview, any collaboration, I say it out loud. Let me press record to get us started. That's my system. Now, I've talked to other podcasters because this was something that when it first happened, I knew that I wasn't alone. So I believe it was through one of the Facebook communities that I'm part of. I went in and said, well, it happened. I forgot to press record, and I'd love to hear what you have done when this has happened to make sure you never make that mistake again. And I got some really cool responses. There's a lot of things that you can do to make sure that you never make this mistake. Whether you've done it before or you're one of the lucky ones that never has made the mistake, keep following these types of pieces of advice so it doesn't become something that you have to experience. But as I said, you can verbally say, let me press record, to make sure you do so. Some people said they put a post-it note on their computer screen that says press record so they don't forget to hit that button. Other people work it into the format of their show. So if they do have a script or if they do have questions laid out at the very top in big, bold letters, all capitalized, press record. There are people that will verbally say it to themselves leading up to it. I know one person said they have it on their what is it called, on their medicine, on the mirror in their bathroom. I guess that could be to a medicine cabinet, but just to drill that point home. And again, it's one of those things when you think about this that it really shouldn't be that big of a deal, right? It's the most fundamental step in this whole process. You're not going to get a podcast recording unless you press the record button. But nevertheless, it's one of those things that can sometimes slip our mind. So if you've never made this mistake, follow this very practical, easy to use advice. Put a post-it note up, verbally commit yourself to hitting record. You're going to thank yourself once the recording ends. I hope that there are some stories about this because, again, I've experienced it on the other end to where we literally got through the entire interview from start to finish. And this one was over an hour and it was never recorded. And come to find out the next day, that's when I learned that she forgot to hit the record button. So it happens. No judgment whatsoever. This is something that we've all, again, that maybe not all, but I feel that many, many podcasters have experienced this. If it's happened to you, I would love to hear your story. Reach out to me through the Bombtrack Media website, through social media, through email, jason@bombtrackmedia.com. Let me know what your experience has been in this regard. What happened? Were you able to start over and salvage the entire recording session? And what do you do to remind yourself to always press the record button? Would love to hear your feedback. If you're in Charlotte, come and tell me in person. We'll have some fun stories to share. But overall, just going down memory lane this week has been a lot of fun because I love thinking about all these things that I've experienced. There's been a lot of good. There's been a lot of bad. There's been a lot of craziness, as you've learned over the past 5 episodes of Podcast Theory Live. So I'm looking forward to doing this again in the future because I know I've got more stories. But next week, we'll be tapping into a little bit of recap of the Empowered Podcasting Conference. My goal for next week's 5 installments of this podcast and of this live stream is to bring you 5 takeaways that I got from being at Empowered Podcasting. So whether it's something I learned from the speakers or something I learned from networking with other podcasters, my goal is twofold. My goal is to network and connect with new people and to meet a lot of friends that I've built in this space that I've still never met in person. It's to get an opportunity to finally shake hands and even give hugs to those people. But ultimately, it's to come home with some new knowledge that I can put to work within my own practices of podcasting and building my brand. And I will be sharing those experiences over the course of next week. Give you a little recap of what I experienced at Empowered Podcasting Conference. Let you know 5 takeaways that I learned that you can utilize as well, but also give you an opportunity to understand what unfolded in Charlotte, North Carolina at the inaugural Empowered Podcasting Conference, and maybe get you pumped up to join all of us at Empowered Podcasting 2025 when that all comes together. So on that note, I am going to wrap up this installment of Podcast Theory Live. I hope you had fun participating in story time with Jason Sircone this week. I loved taking this trip down memory lane with you. And again, if you've got any stories about not pressing record that you'd like to share, please reach out to me and fill me in. I'd love to hear what you've experienced in that respect. But for now, I'm going to sign off, and I am going to go be part of the Empowered Podcasting Conference. I will be doing some live videos here on the Bombtrack Media YouTube channel. Not sure when those videos will go up because it's going to be a little unpredictable with what's going on. But please make sure you are subscribed to the channel and you click the bell so you know when those videos go live. Please don't be a dick about this. If you're listening in podcast format, please jump over to youtube.com/@BombtrackMedia. Subscribe, click the bell, and you'll be in. You'll be a part of the experience. That's going to do it for this installment of Podcast Theory Live, wrapping up the week strong. My name is Jason Sircone, and until our paths cross again next week on a fresh installment of Podcast Theory Live, good talk. I will see you out there.